Imagine for a moment that you're showing up at work one day on a Friday morning. You're excited to get the day going. You're actually working in your dream job and you are like, okay, let me go ahead and check my schedule, see what's going on. Let me go and grab, just to make a casual run to the in-house barista. I'm going to grab my favorite beverage, be it my coffee, my tea, whatever it is I like to drink. And then all of a sudden you're blindsided by a situation you didn't see coming, had no clue at all, no red flags, nothing at all, okay? And all of a sudden this flips your world upside down. And you've got to make a decision. Is this something that I want to continue with, or do I dare make this my pivotal point in my career? Because this does not work for me. Well, that's exactly what happened to me back in 2013. So I'm going to take you back a bit. And this is my Corporate Chronicles series in case you're new here. And if you're not new, welcome or welcome back. Thanks for tuning in. This series is a series I do talking to you and sharing my stories, my journey of what it was like for me in my corporate career. I worked in corporate America for a long 30 years, 25 years in healthcare, 25 years also as a nurse, and 20 plus years in leadership roles. So I know what it is like to be battling in the boardrooms and what it is really like in those high-rise buildings and those proverbial glass ceilings, and when you have a lot of ego trips going on, a lot of power trips. And especially if you are a woman of age, a woman of color, or a woman from a marginalized group, you really get to know what it's like in those boardrooms, right? And when you're just working in a leadership position. So this is where I'm just peeling back the layers, sharing my story, and in the end, I will share with you what the lesson learned was, and hopefully you can take this if you're going through something similar and incorporate this for yourself, right? But we're going to talk about the value in the lesson. So I'm going to take you back to 2013, okay? I had my dream job. Now let me just take you back just a little bit to tell you how I even got this job. I was actually working in public health, if you will. It was employee health and wellness, and working both for the employee health and the community to get the community well. It was a super exciting position in the public health arena. I can't say that I've had many dream jobs, but this was certainly one of them. This was in fact a job I had interviewed for maybe a few weeks, a couple of months before I got hired into this role. Now, when I interviewed, I went through a series of interviews. I interviewed with the director, I interviewed with the current staff, the management team. I did a panel interview with those I would be interacting with. I loved the fact that I was in a leadership role, but I didn't have subordinates, right? So I didn't have employees that I had to oversee. That was the director's job. And that's who ended up hiring me. Well, she didn't hire me initially after that first interview. And I was really disappointed about that because I was in a position where I was ready to leave. I was like in a position that was actually quite a toxic job, right? The environment, the culture of the environment, not the culture of the organization necessarily, but the culture of the environment, the department that I worked in. The people that were there I don't even know how they got the job in the first place. That was what was toxic, okay? So I was ready to leave, okay? And I was like in a desperate place, like I gotta get out of here. I've gotta find something, but it's gotta be worth it. And this position where I ended up getting hired was actually like literally 2 miles from home. I could walk on a good day, okay? So this director from the department had hired someone else at the time. She called me one day out of the blue. I wasn't expecting it. I was almost at my breaking point and I was going to accept another position that seemed like the grass was greener on the other side. I didn't know for sure, but I knew it had to be, or was hoping that it was better than where I was currently. She called me one day. I happened to be, just came back from a break. I took another break, okay, to take the call out of the office. And we talked and she said, I am so sorry. She was so apologetic. I made a horrible mistake. I thought the person I hired, who was an internal hire, was going to be the perfect person for the position. I actually knew when I met you, you were the perfect person for the position, but we have to give our internal hires a chance because it's part of our promise and our policy. So I did, and she was not a good fit and actually turned out to be a nightmare for us. And we're getting a lot of complaints. And I know that you are the right person for this position. You're a great match. I loved everything about you. And I know that, if you turn me down, I would understand, no ill feelings, but I want to know if you're still available and if you would be willing to take the position. Girl, ain't nothing but a word. When do I start? Right? So I had already toured the facility, met everybody. I was ready. Okay. I was so ready. Now, I did give a proper 2-week notice, even though they didn't rightfully deserve it. That's how I roll. Okay. I didn't want to burn bridges. And so, because the company itself, I had worked there before in a different role and I loved it. I mean, that was actually another dream job I had. So I didn't want to burn bridges. It was just this department. So I left like I needed to, the right way, right? And 2 weeks later, I think I gave myself like a week in between just to take a breather. And then I went into that position, the new position. So now that I'm here, I was already, this director took me under her wing. We hit it off. I loved everything about her. She was just so fascinating to me. Highly educated, intelligent woman. She had so many degrees. She had written best-selling books. She had written many, many articles. She just had so much respect in the community and with the doctors, with the C-suite execs. I mean, leadership, just so much, right? So much going on for herself. And she took me under her wings to show me everything I needed to know about what I needed to do in this role. She protected me from people who she knew would give me a hard time, because I was a woman of color in leadership, and she already knew who these people were, that they were bad seeds. They were trying to weed those people out, and it's been difficult, to do, and yada, yada. So she had put me on game with all kinds of stuff, okay, that was going on, but that she promised that as long as she was there, she was going to do everything I could, that it doesn't matter. If I have great ideas and we get pushback, she's going to put me at the forefront to discuss those ideas and why I think they're great ideas. And she's going to make sure that I shine. And I really appreciated that from her. She also at the same time hired our personal assistant. I say our because this was somebody that we were going to split between us. So it was just the three of us in this department. Me as the clinician / program director, program manager. Okay, my title wasn't that exactly. It was, more or less the clinician of that department. And then she was the director who I answered to. And then we split the personal assistant that she also hired, who I adored. This girl was sharp as a tack, quick study, humorous, fun, personable, professional, 20 years in the military. She was, when I tell you she was her attention to detail was off the charts, okay? She was a machine. She could just get stuff done. She paid attention to the things we liked and didn't like, and she had things set up accordingly. Like she was just thebomb.com, okay? And so I really appreciated everything about this position and this being in this organization, and their core values were in alignment with mine at the time. So that was kind of just to paint you the picture. So that job was I thought I was going to be there for a long time. Mind you, I've job hopped my whole entire 30-year career. The longest job I've ever had was 4 years. That was purple moons ago. I was in my early 20s, okay? And after that, it's been a year. If you get a year out of me, we're doing great. If you get 2 years, which was probably only 2 jobs that I had in my whole career, we're doing real good. It's time to celebrate, okay? So the fact that I was thinking I was going to be here for the long haul, that was really good. Just the fact that I even had that mindset, because, at the time I wasn't thinking anything about, I was thinking about businesses, and I shouldn't say that. And I had dabbled in and out of, doing some businesses, but I hadn't yet, at the time I was all about corporate, right? Climbing the corporate ladder as high as I could go. So now I'm going to take you back to a particular day. This was a Friday when I walked in. This is how I started the story. So I walked in this morning. It's a Friday. I am excited. I'm okay, I already know what my weekends are. We got plans, me and my boo, right? But I wanted to come, I came in early as I always do. I like to get set up. I like to have time to just unwind, relax, not have no conversations with anybody. Set the tone, put on my music, make it a very therapeutic setting, and get ready for my day. We badged in and out of this place, so unless you had a badge to this door, you couldn't get in. It was locked until we unlocked it. So, this was a place where we normally would take walk-ins in between appointments, but I know ahead of time. I don't know the walk-ins ahead of time, of course, but I know my appointments ahead of time because we set things up according to how I'd like them depending on what meetings I have and what's going on throughout the day, if I'm sitting on committees, if I'm in the community. And I love the flexibility and the autonomy of this position. Okay, so this particular day, I decided I was in, and then my assistant was in. She came in after me, and she was getting set up, and she was reading off, okay, this is what's going on for your day to day. You got this meeting at this time, this going on at this time. I didn't make it. She said, I scheduled it real light. Do you want me to reschedule anything? We're probably not going to have a lot of walk-ins and, yada, yada, yada. So I said, you know what? This is going to be a great day. Let's go ahead and set the mood. How about I treat us to some lattes? So we, had an in-house barista. I went upstairs. I just made a casual run, and I already knew her favorite. She's usually going to get this for us, but I decided I'm going to treat her today, and I'm going to treat her and my director, who is my boss. And I said, you know what? Let me text her real quick to make sure she wants this drink or if she wants something else or, what she wants to do. Unlike her, she did not respond. And I thought, that's not like her. She always responds pretty quickly. And even if it's just a thumbs up or an okay or be there soon or whatever, nothing, quiet. I'm like, So I asked my assistant to check on her and see if everything was, I didn't worry. I wasn't concerned, but I just thought, well, okay. So I said, well, by the time I get up there and get ready to place the order, I had my assistant to text me and let me know if she had heard from her. I said, well, give her a call. She calls and no answer. I'm like, okay. So I said, well, I'm just going to grab us something. If she wants something, I can always walk back up or we can walk up together or whatever. So as I'm standing in line, waiting, to order, there are people ahead of me, a couple people behind me. I hear a voice, a familiar voice, and I turn around and I said, oh, hey, it was the CEO of the company. Now we hit it off, by now I know I've garnered respect. Everybody knows me. They appreciate me. They think I'm the greatest thing ever. They're so happy they hired me. They've heard great things about me. So he was just spending time complimenting me and the great work I'm doing and all of this. And I thought, well, thank you so much. I really appreciate the compliments. I'm here to do a great job. That's what you hired me to do. And so I wouldn't have it any other way. So I'm still waiting. He says, hey, do you have just a moment? I said, sure. I said, well, I placed my order. He said, well, do you mind stepping out of the barista for a moment? I said, okay, no problem. So I thought we were just going to chat it up about, I don't know, whatever, small talk, or, maybe he had a couple questions and, it was private and he didn't want it in public and whatever, So I was like, what's up? So, and this is the kind of relationship we had, we can talk. He was just a very normal guy, like, nothing. He didn't make it seem like he was so superior. And that's what I also liked about my boss, because she never made it seem like I was her inferior. We were equals. I was her colleague. We were, one and the same. And she looked for my advice. She wanted it. She solicited it, she wouldn't have it any other way. So anyways, I'm having this conversation with the guy. It started off, the CEO. I started off as small talk. And he said, hey, why don't you follow me and let's go to my office? And I was like, your office? We're in the professional building. The hospital is across the way. You have to take the corridor all the way down. Okay. It's not a quick, easy walk. I'm up for the walk anytime. That wasn't the problem. It's like, we're here. I ordered drinks. We haven't gotten the drinks yet. Oh, don't worry about it. I'll pay for them. Don't worry about it. He tells the barista, put it on my tab. We're good. I'm like, what? I want my drink. You know what I mean? I'm trying to start my day. What are we doing here? So I'm like, well, how serious can this be? What does he need to tell me so badly that we got to go all the way to his office? So we're walking and walking. First, he didn't say actually that we're going to his office. We're just walking. And I finally says, wait a minute, where are we going? And then he says, oh, to my office. Okay. So we get to not his office, but as we're getting down the hallway and, making all these turns down this maze of a walk, I'm like, why does it feel like we're going to HR? Because we were. So we take the back way into the HR building, which was strange, or in the office. And I thought, well, why are we taking the back way? He didn't want anybody to see us. He didn't want anybody to know that we had come in. So we met privately with the person at the time who was the director of HR. We got along just fine, but there was a little bit of rivalry with the HR department and the employee health and wellness department. for a number of reasons. Okay. And same is true for the marketing department. There were just a few departments like that. Even though we crossed a lot in the things that we did as far as compliance and regulation was concerned, like we crossed, right? Anyhow, so just to kind of tell you, there was sometimes a little bit of tension. So, but I didn't feel much of that when my boss was there. So I get into the office with this HR director, the CEO, we close the door, they close the door, and I'm there like, oh, what in the hell is going on? So I thought actually, and I'm like, well, this guy just complimented me, and I'm an optimist, okay? I'm thinking, well, he's complimenting me. We are in the HR office. Maybe they're giving me a promotion. Yes, that is exactly what they were doing. However, the part that you don't yet know, and this is the kicker right here, is that they terminated my boss the night before, after hours. And he wanted to pull me in to tell me they were going to promote me basically to her position without the title, because with the title, they'd have to give me the pay. Okay. So that was very clever, and yet not the right thing to do, because they were asking me to take on more responsibility. They just immediately terminated my boss. And then on top of that, as if that wasn't enough of a shocker, they told me they were going to be terminating my personal assistant. And I was shooketh, okay? I was just like, what in the hell do you mean? What are you talking about right now? Like, make this make sense. You think I'm going to be taking on all of these responsibilities, not have the title or the pay, then on top of that, run this department solo by myself without any extra support or, any real direction for where we're headed? Like, what are we doing? And why did you fire my director? We're in the middle of projects. We're working on creating programs. We've been working long and hard and diligently on many things. We've been having a ton of meetings. Like, what? Like, we just saw you in this last meeting and on the committee, and there was nothing to clue us in as to this would be something that you would be doing. Why are we making these changes? And who am I going to have to assist me? Like, I just had so many questions. And they said, oh, we've got it all figured out. I bet you do. So, okay. So you guys expect me to what? Just be excited and jumping for joy right now and celebrating that you just gave me my bosses who I appreciate and adore and who hired me and who's done so much for this company? You guys just betrayed her. Like, you just gave her the boot and kicked her out, and just know, where's the loyalty, So it really rubbed me the wrong way. It pissed me off. I don't think that they thought I was going to react this way, but I was not happy. I felt very guilty, very like that was so deceptive. I thought the fact that this happened to her, she must have thought, did she think that I knew? Did they tell her that they were giving me her? Like, what in the hell? You know what I mean? So I was just like mind blown. Okay. I didn't know what to think next and what to do next. And I was like, I don't want to work for a place like this. This woman has slaved for you all. This was a newer company of a world-renowned, okay, mind you, a world-renowned, highly rated trauma center. Like, this was the second location of a very well-known healthcare organization. People come from all over the world to get to go to their schooling, right? To go to their school of medicine, to learn their teaching methodologies, to get their degrees, because they have it's a teaching hospital, and they have a school connected to it. And on top of that, patients get flown in for, like I said, it's a level 1 trauma center. So this woman has done so much for this company. She was like the 6th or 7th, maybe 4th or 5th, I can't recall exactly, person they hired. She came with so much knowledge and background that they needed, and talent and ideas, and it's like they used her up, dried her out, and hung her out to dry. And this woman had been talking to me about, this is her last stop, she's going to be here until retirement. she's loving this. She's so glad she has the perfect team. She doesn't want it any other way. We're going to grow old together. Like we had all this fun talk and jokes and stuff. We really thought this was it for us. And then my assistant, who I knew was depending on this job. Okay. She was no longer in the military, so she didn't have those checks coming in. She was like the sole provider, or the primary provider rather, of her family. Like, she had a sick mom she was taking care of. I knew that this was going to be devastating news to her. So I just was like welling up with so much emotion. I just couldn't even fathom what was going to come next. So they wanted to hash through the details with me, and it was like the Charlie Brown talk. The Charlie Brown characters, wah, 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 wah. Like, I heard nothing really after that. I was like, you guys, I don't know what you're saying right now. I don't know what, I need time to process this. I need a minute. I need a minute. Okay. So we hashed through some of the details. I asked a gazillion questions. Everything was going into effect immediately. They had closed my clinic down for the day without telling me, or I guess they had to, because how am I going to go back an emotional wreck with no assistance down there? I'm not even prepared now to do any of my clinics today. I don't want to see anybody. I don't want to go into any meetings. So they literally canceled everything. They closed the office. And then they were going to send out a message on the following Monday, publicly announce this and put it on the boards and all of this. And we were going to have meetings. And I was like, I'm taking the rest of the day off. Okay. And that's exactly what I did. So this was a pivotal moment for me. This helped me to really realize that jobs just ain't loyal. Do you know what I mean? Jobs ain't loyal. And I would have never thought, after my boss had done so much to help this company grow to the level that they had grown, because when I came in, I think they were I want to say 3 or 4 years old. Okay. She had helped them grow significantly, just on her sweat equity alone, so it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I knew if they could do this to her, they can do it to me. And thereafter, when I went back to the office. And of course, by now, my assistant is blowing me up, and I'm texting her, give me a minute. I'm with the CEO. She's like, what's going on? I'm like, give me a minute. So I get back, and I don't even know how to look at her. Okay. She knows something's wrong. She can feel the tension, the energy. She's like, what's going on? What's wrong? I'm like, just give me a minute. And she wouldn't let up. So I went to my office. I closed the door. She opens my door. I'm like, I almost said her name. I'm like, so-and-so, give me a minute, please. I need a minute. She's like, okay, fine. Is it something bad you're scaring me? I'm like, no, not something like what you're thinking. Something happened to our boss? No, nothing like you're thinking. Well, what? Something. I'm like, I do, but just give me a dang minute. So I am out there. I'm like looking at my beautiful view, my beautiful office, the corner office with the view, the bonuses and the perks. I'm just thinking of all the things. Her door was locked. They boxed up her stuff, and they hovered over her, handed her stuff. They didn't even let her back in her office. I'll tell you how I know that is because I found this out later directly from her. Anywho, so I had the key to her office, and the office was empty when I went in there, which that was the thing I think that struck us as odd as well. Anyways, it all came back, just the flood of information and a flood of, I realized this is what happened. So my assistant stepped out. I said, give me a minute. She steps out. She gives me 20, 30 seconds. Okay, that's long enough. What's going on? I had to tell her, but I wasn't supposed to tell her. I told her what had happened to her boss, but I hadn't yet delivered the news to her. But she knew there was something more that I was holding on to, because by now we really know each other. I had to tell her, and it was just we both broke down. We hugged, we cried. I was a whole hot mess. My makeup was just a hot mess. I was good for nobody. I told her to act like she didn't know when she got in there, but anyway, so she went in, she took it like a champ, and we started brainstorming on what we were going to do. So we called each other after work. We left for the day, and I've been trying to get in touch with my boss. I didn't know what, I was just like, my heart broke for her. I didn't know what, I couldn't imagine, because up until this point, I'd never had anybody fire me or lay me off. That's not true. Once in my early 20s, when I lived down south, that was the first time and the only time. Never had I been a part of something like this before. So I knew that this was not going to be a company that I worked for. And there began like my whole process for this idea that I had, where I came up with an idea of shared visions. I didn't even know this is the company I run today, 8 years later. Okay, my online coaching and consulting business. I had no idea it was going to turn into what it is today, but that began my journey with this idea that I'm never going to allow somebody to put me in a position like that and not be ready for it. Okay, so that was my pivotal moment. Now, my boss and I and my assistant and I have kept in touch for years. However, and by the way, before I get to that point, I stayed at this job for maybe another 6 months and I couldn't take it anymore. I felt like I was so misaligned in where this company, what direction the company now wanted to go in. I was now under the jurisdiction of HR as opposed to my own department. I didn't have someone who I could look up to. So now I'm kind of mixed into 2 or 3 departments that crossed over. I just was like, my vision and values and it's just misaligned. And I wanted to start a business that was going to be in alignment with my core values and my deepest aspirations. And that wasn't it anymore. And so that's where I started to like really flesh out what I wanted my life to look at like, and the importance of not putting my eggs in one basket. Because here I thought, this is going to be it. We were already talking up what we were going to do, the direction of the department. We could just see the big picture. We were getting more out in the communities. We were working on all of these different projects and programs and all the things. And it was so exciting. I was just delighted about this whole shebang, right? And then they just cut it off, like done, right? Just in a moment's time, no notice at all. So obviously they were conjuring this up right in the background, and they weren't telling us until it was when it happened, when it went into effect. But all of these different random policies were rolling out. The pushback I used to give was no longer receptive, right? Was no longer rather received from the leadership, which it wasn't a lot of times anyways, but my boss was able to like step in front of that and get in front of that. Like, look, this is what we need to do. This is so anyways, I'm managing this whole department, all of these employees, these physicians. I'm on the committee. I'm in the community. I'm overseeing all these compliance things. I'm working closely with the Joint Commission, back then JCO, getting ready for audits, like communicable diseases, putting people who are on modified duty on a temporary assignment, bringing them back, tracking all of these different things. It was just chaotic. It was too much. Now, I kept it cool, calm, and collective. I kept it to a point where, I was able to run the show because by then I was really great at it. So I was very proficient, and thanks to the help of my assistant who like set me up to be able to do a lot on my own. But now I'm sharing the assistants from the HR department, one of whom I love, the other one not so much. In fact, she's somebody who just the things she would do would grind my gears, and it was to the point that we could not get along anymore, and I didn't want her working for me anymore. So I requested someone else. It was just a whole hot mess. And then they wanted to move my office to a whole entire department on the hospital side. And they were documenting things. It was just getting weird, okay? And I wasn't having it. So I put in my 2-week notice, happily. And I told them I didn't burn bridges. I did everything I needed to within that 2 weeks to get them set up for success for the next person they brought in. They brought someone in on the interim. I think, actually, I want to take that back. I honestly want to say, I don't remember if I gave 2 weeks or 3. Almost feels like 3. Anyways, I was planning my move at this time across country for a temporary relocation. I gave a decent notice, okay? And I don't even think I gave that long of a notice because I remember feeling like, no, you did this to her. You could have done this to me. The 2 weeks is the max that you're getting. Yeah, it was 2 weeks. Okay. I had to go back for a minute and remember. So, needless to say, I just want you to think about for a moment, if you are in a predicament like this right now, or before you get into a predicament right now, know that these jobs ain't loyal, okay? In fact, I did a whole video on this that I'd like for you to watch next, where I talk about the deceit in these jobs, okay? So stop applying for these jobs, because these jobs, the loyalty lies are real, okay? And you always need to make sure that you are diversifying your income stream and always building something up on the side, so that you're always prepared in the event that something like this happens to you. And that was the biggest takeaway for me. That was the most valuable lesson I had learned, for this particular role. I hope this has been valuable for you today. If so, please share it out. And I'm going to tune out while you tune in. Be sure to watch the next video that YouTube recommends. Thank you for watching my Corporate Chronicles. Stay tuned for more, okay? I'll be back soon. As always, and until next time, I am wholeheartedly in this journey with you. Bye for now.